Story 1. The Forgotten Motel. I was on my way back from a work conference in Dallas heading toward my home in Oklahoma. It was already past midnight when my eyes grew heavy, and I realized I couldn't keep driving without falling asleep at the wheel. The highway stretched on for miles with nothing but darkness and the occasional flicker of headlights passing the other way. I spotted an old glowing sign just off the exit, a crooked, buzzing neon board that simply read, Motel. There was something unsettling about how isolated it looked. The parking lot was nearly empty, weeds growing through cracks in the pavement, and the building itself had the kind of peeling paint that screamed abandoned. But exhaustion got the better of me. I pulled in, parked, and stepped out into the unnerving silence. The night air smelled faintly of mold and gasoline. The lobby lights were dim, and behind the counter sat a man who barely lifted his head. His eyes were half hidden in shadow, and when I asked for a room, he only grunted, scribbled something onto a key tag, and slid it across the counter. The number read Room 12. I forced a polite smile, but as I turned toward the hallway, I noticed something odd. Every single door was shut, except for one. Room 8. Its door was cracked open just enough that I could see darkness inside. As I walked past, I swear I heard breathing from within that room. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I told myself not to look. I just kept moving. But as I reached room 12 and slid the key into the lock, I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever or whatever was in room 8 was listening to me. The key turned stiffly in the lock, like it hadn't been used in years. When the door finally creaked open, a wave of stale, suffocating air hit me. The room looked exactly how you'd imagine a place like this. Brown carpet with mysterious dark stains, a sagging mattress draped in faded sheets, and a single lamp buzzing in the corner, throwing weak yellow light across the walls. I dropped my bag onto the chair but immediately froze. The mirror above the dresser was cracked, and in its fractured glass, I thought I saw movement behind me. My head whipped around, but the room was empty. Just shadows dancing with the light. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was exhausted. I sat on the edge of the bed and took out my phone to text my coworker that I'd stopped for the night, but the screen glitched, static lines flickering across it, before going completely black. My phone was dead. The battery had been at 40% when I walked in. The silence was overwhelming, too heavy, too intentional. Then it came, the sound I'll never forget. From the hallway outside, slow, dragging footsteps. 1, 2, 3. Stopping right in front of my door. I held my breath. The doorknob rattled gently as if someone was testing it. Then, nothing. I sat frozen on the bed, every muscle locked. After what felt like hours but was probably seconds, I finally got up the courage to press my eye against the peephole. The hallway was empty, but when I pulled back from the peephole, my blood ran cold, because the faint imprint of a handprint was smeared across the inside of the glass. Someone had touched it from my side of the door. So I stumbled back from the door, my chest tightening like someone had tied a rope around my lungs. That handprint, it was fresh. The faint smears looked wet, like condensation, but when I touched it, it was warm. I wanted to leave right then, but the thought of stepping into that hallway felt worse than staying put. I told myself to just make it through the night and leave at sunrise. I laid on the bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, listening for the sound of footsteps again. Minutes dragged by in suffocating silence. My eyelids grew heavy, but just as I was drifting off, the television in the corner clicked on by itself. Static, loud, hissing static that filled the room. My heart nearly burst out of my chest. I grabbed the remote from the nightstand and clicked it off. Silence again. And then, through the static, right before the screen went dark, I could swear I saw a face. A pale, grinning face staring directly at me from inside the glass. I threw the remote across the room, trembling. That's when I heard it. The bathroom door behind me slowly creaked open. I hadn't been in there since I checked in. Frozen in place, I turned my head just enough to see. The bathroom was pitch black, but from the shadows I heard something. A long, shaky inhale. Someone was in there. I bolted for the door, fumbling with the lock, yanking it open so hard the knob nearly came off. The hallway was empty. But the second I stepped out, I heard the bathroom door slam shut behind me. I didn't look back, I just ran. I tore down that hallway, every step echoing off the rotting, wallpapered walls. The air smelled stronger now, mildew mixed with something metallic, something like rust or blood. When I reached the lobby, it was empty. The desk light was off. The chair where the clerk had been sitting was turned sideways, still spinning slightly, as if he'd just gotten up. "Hello?" I called out, my voice cracking. No answer. I pushed through the glass doors into the parking lot. My car sat at the far end, one of only 2 vehicles there. The other was an old station wagon, the kind you'd see in movies from the 70s, its windows fogged from the inside. I sprinted to my car, hands shaking so badly I dropped the keys twice before finally jamming them into the lock. I opened the door, but before I could get in, I noticed something that froze me in place. The trunk of the station wagon was cracked open. Inside was a large black trash bag tied at the top. The bag shifted. Something inside was moving. My breath caught in my throat. That's when I heard it again. Footsteps, slow, heavy, coming from the motel entrance behind me. I didn't turn to look. I dove into my car, slammed the locks down, and jammed the key into the ignition. The engine sputtered, coughed, then roared to life. In my rearview mirror, I finally looked. Someone was standing in the doorway of the motel. The same shadowy figure I thought I'd seen in room 8. Tall, thin, perfectly still. As my headlights cut across the parking lot, the figure raised one hand, and in its hand, dangling like a trophy, was the motel room key I'd been given. Room 12. I floored the gas and didn't stop driving until the sun came up. When I worked up the nerve to tell someone, I tried to look up the motel again. The address didn't exist. No listing, no records. But sometimes late at night, I swear I can still smell that mix of mold and metal in my car's upholstery, like it followed me home. When I finally pulled into my driveway, the sun was already climbing above the trees. For the first time all night, I let myself breathe. The terror felt distant now, almost like a bad dream. But the relief didn't last long. As I killed the engine, I glanced at my rearview mirror one last time. That's when I noticed it. A faint smudge. The imprint of fingers streaked across the inside of my back window. I hadn't seen it when I got in the car at the motel. My blood ran cold. Someone or something had touched it from the inside while I was driving. I sat frozen, too terrified to move. After what felt like forever, I forced myself to get out, slammed the car door shut, and stumbled into the house. I locked every door, every window, every deadbolt. For hours I couldn't stop pacing. My phone was still dead, so I plugged it in and waited. When it finally turned back on, I opened my photos, just needing some kind of distraction. But at the top of the camera roll, there was a picture I hadn't taken. It was a grainy shot of me, lying on the motel bed. The photo was taken from the corner of the room, where the cracked bathroom door had been. I dropped the phone so hard it clattered across the floor. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That photo, it proved I wasn't imagining things. Someone had been in that room with me. For the rest of the day, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every creak of my house made me jump. That night, I tried to convince myself it was over. I climbed into bed and left every light in the house on, but just as my eyes started to close, a sound snapped me awake. Tap, tap, tap. The same faint tapping I'd heard on the motel window. Only this time it was coming from my bedroom window. I froze, pulling the covers to my chin, praying it was just tree branches. But there were no trees near that side of the house. Against every ounce of instinct, I slowly turned my head. The blinds were closed, but through the tiny gap in the slats, I saw it. A pale face, pressed right up against the glass, grinning. I bolted upright and screamed. By the time I ripped the blinds open, the window was empty, just my reflection staring back at me. But when I looked closer, my stomach dropped. In the condensation on the outside of the glass, there was a fresh handprint. Long fingers pressed tight, sliding downward, like someone had been watching me all night. I didn't sleep a second that night. By morning, my nerves were shot. I couldn't stay in that house another minute. I drove straight to the local police station, clutching my phone like evidence. I told the officer everything. The motel, the footsteps, the photo I hadn't taken, the face at my window. He looked skeptical at first, until I showed him the picture. The color drained from his face. He called another officer over, whispering something I couldn't hear. When I demanded to know what was going on, the officer finally spoke. There used to be a motel off Highway 65, but it burned down in the late 90s. 12 people died inside, guests, staff, all trapped. My mouth went dry. "That's not possible," I stammered. "I was just there, room 12, He cut me off. Room 12 was the room where they found the last body, the man who used to run the place. I felt my stomach twist. "So you're saying I..." "What? Imagined all of this?" The officer shook his head slowly. "I'm saying whatever you walked into last night, it wasn't a motel." His words rattled inside my skull, but what truly destroyed me was what happened next. He scrolled through my phone, then frowned. "What picture?" he asked. I grabbed the phone from his hand, but the photo, the one of me lying on the motel bed, was gone, like it had never existed. I left the station in a haze, the officer's words echoing in my head. A motel that hadn't existed for decades, a photo that vanished without a trace. I drove home half expecting to see that pale face waiting for me in the window again, but the house looked normal, quiet, safe, or so I thought. When I stepped inside, the air was different, heavy, damp. A faint buzzing sound filled the silence. I followed it into the living room. My old TV, the one I hadn't turned on in months, was glowing with static. The hairs on my arms stood up. Slowly, I walked closer. Through the snow of the static, the image began to shift, to take shape. It was a hallway, not just any hallway, the same one outside room 12. I recognized the peeling wallpaper, the dim lights, the crooked exit sign. And then the camera angle moved, like someone was holding it, walking down that hallway in real time, step by step, until it stopped, right outside my front door. I didn't even realize I was backing away until my heel caught on the rug and I stumbled. My eyes darted to the door, half expecting it to burst open, but instead 3 slow knocks echoed through the house. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. The TV hissed louder, almost like it was laughing. The knocks rattled through my chest. I stood frozen, staring at the door, every instinct screaming, "Don't open it." But then from the TV, a voice crackled through the static, low, drawn out, whispering my name. David. My blood ran ice cold. That thing, whatever it was, knew me. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a heavy lamp, and inched toward the door. The knocking stopped. Silence pressed down on the house like a weight. I swallowed hard and yanked the door open. Nothing. Just the quiet street, the empty yard. But as I lowered the lamp, my stomach twisted. Right there on my welcome mat was a motel room key. Tarnished. Rusted. The tag read, 12. My hands trembled as I bent down to pick it up. The metal was ice cold. That's when the door slammed shut behind me. I whipped around. My living room was gone. I wasn't standing outside my house anymore. I was back in that endless motel hallway, the buzzing lights above, the smell of mildew and rust filling my lungs. At the far end of the corridor, the cracked door of room 12 waited, open just wide enough for me to see darkness spilling out. And from inside that darkness, I heard it. The sound of someone breathing, slow, shaky, getting closer. The darkness inside room 12 pulsed, alive, like it was breathing with me. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs wouldn't move. It was like the air itself pinned me there. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Tall, thin, face pale as paper, lips curled in that same awful grin I'd seen in my window. Its eyes were nothing but black hollows swallowing the light. It held something in its hand. My phone. The screen lit up, and I saw dozens, no hundreds of photos. All of me, sleeping, eating, driving, standing in my own home. The figure tilted its head, as if inviting me to look closer. Then, slowly, it whispered, voice like gravel scraping across glass. "You never left." The hallway lights began to flicker. The wallpaper peeled away, revealing scorched black walls. Smoke choked the air. Screams echoed from every door around me, as if all 12 rooms were filled with people burning alive. I stumbled back, clawing at the walls. But there was no exit sign anymore, just hallway, stretching on forever. The figure raised its hand. Dangling from its long fingers was a motel key. The tag swung slowly, catching the dim light. Room 13. There had never been a room 13. The last thing I remember was the door creaking open behind me, and that same smell, mold and blood pouring out, wrapping around me like a blanket. And then, nothing. Some nights, when I close my eyes, I wake up gasping in my bed, convinced it was just a nightmare. But every morning when I check my nightstand, the same thing is waiting for me. Another motel key. This morning it read 14. Story 2, the last broadcast. In the small town of Ashford, nothing ever happened. No scandals, no headlines, just quiet, predictable days. That is why everyone listened to WNKR 103.5 FM, the late-night radio station run by a single DJ named Evelyn Price. Her voice was calm, warm, like an old friend keeping you company when you couldn't sleep. One night, Evelyn signed on at midnight, like always. Her opening line drifted through every kitchen, every truck cab, every pair of headphones in town. Good evening, Ashford. Tonight's program is dedicated to all you restless souls out there. Stay with me. But this time, something was different. Instead of her usual playlist of old rock ballads, Evelyn played a recording, a distorted tape. At first, it just sounded like static. Then, beneath the hiss, came faint whispers, words no one could quite make out. Some listeners swore they heard their own names. Others claimed they heard screaming. Calls started flooding the station, but Evelyn never picked up. Her broadcast continued. The whispers grew louder, more frantic, until suddenly Evelyn's voice returned, low and trembling. "San, if you're hearing this, it means they've found me." The line cut out, and the station went dead. By morning, WNKR 103.5 was all anyone in Ashford could talk about. Some listeners swore Evelyn's final words were a prank. Others claimed the whispers were nothing but interference. But then the phone calls started. Dozens of people reported the same thing. When they turned off their radios after the broadcast, the whispers didn't stop. They followed them. One man said he heard the static inside his shower, fizzing just beyond the curtain. A mother claimed her daughter woke up crying, insisting Evelyn's voice was in her closet calling her name. Truck drivers, late shift workers, even the sheriff himself, none of them could sleep. By noon, the radio station was swarmed. Locals banged on the locked studio door demanding answers. But the building was empty. Inside, the lights were still on. The microphone was still warm. Evelyn's chair was pushed back like she'd just stood up mid-broadcast. And on the desk, right beside the soundboard, sat a reel-to-reel tape recorder. It was still running. When the sheriff hit stop and rewound it, the tape played back Evelyn's entire broadcast from last night. Every whisper, every distorted scream. But there was something new at the very end. A single line, spoken in Evelyn's trembling voice. "Don't let them tune in again." By nightfall, the town was restless. Radios across Ashford hissed with static, even when they were unplugged. That's when 3 people decided they couldn't wait for answers. Mark Rivers, a local journalist hungry for a real story. Lena Ortiz, a college student home for the summer, who'd been one of the last callers Evelyn never answered. And Sheriff Dale Harper, a man who pretended not to be shaken but hadn't stopped hearing whispers since last night. They met outside the locked WNKR station, flashlights in hand. The air around the building buzzed faintly, like a swarm of insects. Inside, everything was just as it had been earlier. The microphone waiting, the chair pulled back, the tape recorder on the desk. But something new had appeared. Pinned to the soundboard with a rusted nail was a piece of paper. The handwriting was jagged, desperate. "Do not follow the signal." Lena's hands trembled as she picked it up. "What does this even mean?" Mark lifted the note closer to the light. "It means Evelyn knew exactly what was happening, and she tried to stop it." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Then where the hell is she?" Before anyone could answer, the reel-to-reel tape recorder clicked on by itself. The reel spun, hissing with static. Then Evelyn's voice filled the room again. This time it wasn't the broadcast. It was a message, Mark, Lena, Dale, if you're hearing this, you're already part of it. The three of them froze as Evelyn's voice echoed from the recorder. Mark, Lena, Dale, if you're hearing this, you're already part of it. Then silence. The reels spun, but no sound followed. Mark's breathing grew uneven. He grabbed the recorder, shaking it. How the hell does she know our names? Put it down, the sheriff barked, but Mark had already pressed rewind. The tape screeched, then Evelyn's voice whispered again. Mark. Only this time it wasn't coming from the machine. It was coming from inside his head. Mark dropped the recorder, clutching his ears. Stop it! Stop it! His voice cracked as he staggered backward, slamming against the wall. Lena rushed to him. Mark, what's wrong? His eyes were wide, bloodshot, staring past her. She's here. Evelyn's in the signal. She's inside me. The sheriff tried to pull him up, but Mark shoved him away with unnatural strength, collapsing to the floor as if something invisible pinned him down. And then the sound filled the room, static, deafening, vibrating through the walls, rattling the windows. Every light bulb flickered. From the speakers on the soundboard, Evelyn's voice seeped out again, distorted, broken, barely human. Don't follow the signal, or it will find you. Mark's body went still. When he finally lifted his head, his mouth opened. But the voice that came out was not his own, it was Evelyn's. Room for one more. Mark's lips moved, but Evelyn's voice kept spilling out, broken and jagged like a corrupted recording. You shouldn't have come here. Sheriff Harper shoved Lena behind him, drawing his gun. Mark, snap out of it. But Mark's body jerked like a puppet. His eyes rolled back, pupils swallowed in black static. Too late. Too late. They're already listening. Then the radio station lights blew out. The room plunged into darkness, save for the faint red glow of the on-air sign above the booth. And that's when the sound spread. Not from the recorder, not from the speakers, from every device in town. In homes, radios sputtered alive on their own. In gas stations, old TVs buzzed with snow. In parked cars, static hissed from dead batteries. All of Ashford was suddenly tuned in. People stumbled out into the streets, clutching their heads, hearing voices layered beneath the static. Some dropped to their knees, screaming. Others walked in a daze, repeating fragments of Evelyn's last broadcast. Back inside the booth, Mark collapsed, motionless. The static stopped. For a moment it was silent. Lena's hands shook as she touched his shoulder. Is he? Mark's head snapped toward her. In the darkness, his mouth stretched wide in an impossible grin. From deep in his throat, Evelyn's voice spoke again. Room for two more. Sheriff Harper yanked Lena toward the door. We're leaving. Now. Mark's body twitched on the studio floor, static fizzing from his throat. Don't leave. Don't leave. The sheriff kicked the door open, dragging Lena into the night. But outside was worse. Ashford's streets were alive with noise. Radios in empty cars blared static. Old televisions flickered in shop windows. Streetlights buzzed and pulsed, blinking in rhythm like a heartbeat. And the people. Dozens stood in the road facing the radio tower, their heads tilted at the same unnatural angle, mouths moving silently as if reciting words only they could hear. One by one they turned toward Harper and Lena. Their eyes were blank, glassy, reflecting the glow of the tower's red beacon. Jesus Christ, Harper muttered, raising his gun. Lena grabbed his arm. Don't. Look at them. They're not attacking. It's like they're waiting. Then the signal surged. Every radio, every speaker, every screen erupted at once. Evelyn's voice, fractured and layered with a dozen others, screamed across Ashford, "Do not follow the signal." The crowd of townspeople jerked violently, then began moving, slowly, all at once, toward Harper and Lena. The sheriff fired a warning shot into the air. The sound didn't matter. The people kept coming. From behind them, inside the station, Mark's voice echoed into the night. Room for three more. Harper and Lena sprinted down Main Street, their footsteps echoing against the chorus of static. The townspeople followed, slow but relentless, like sleepwalkers drawn to some silent command. Lena gasped, clutching her side. We can't outrun them forever. Harper spotted the diner at the corner, Maggie's place, its neon sign sputtering. He kicked the door open, shoving Lena inside. The diner was empty. Booths overturned, coffee still steaming in mugs. The jukebox in the corner played nothing but white noise. Harper shoved a table against the door. "We'll regroup here, just breathe." Lena collapsed into a booth, trembling. "Sheriff, what if this isn't just here? What if it's everywhere?" Before Harper could answer, the static in the jukebox cut off. A voice emerged, Evelyn's voice. "You can't hide." Every bulb in the diner popped, plunging them into darkness. The neon sign outside flickered, casting red light through the window. Harper raised his gun, scanning the room. "Show yourself!" Then came the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate. From the kitchen doorway, a figure stepped out. It was Maggie, the diner's owner, or what was left of her. Her eyes glowed faintly with the same static haze they'd seen in the crowd outside. Her mouth hung open, but the voice that spilled out was not hers. It was Evelyn's. "Room for 4 more." Behind her, the shadows of other figures began to emerge, every one of them staring straight at Harper and Lena. Maggie's body stood unnaturally still in the center of the diner, her head tilting to one side, as Evelyn's voice dripped from her throat. "Room for 4 more." Lena pressed against the wall, whispering, "Sheriff, that's not her. That's not Maggie." Harper raised his gun, but his hand shook. "Then what the hell am I looking at?" Maggie's jaw unhinged wider than humanly possible. A crackling sound poured out, like 1,000 overlapping radio signals bleeding into one. The walls vibrated, glasses shattered, and the booths shook violently. Through the static, Evelyn's voice emerged again, clearer this time. "Help me, please, it's not me." Lena's eyes widened. "She's begging. Sheriff, she's trapped inside." Harper's grip on the gun tightened. Sweat rolled down his forehead. "Oh, she's luring us in." Maggie staggered closer, twitching like a marionette. Her shadow stretched unnaturally long across the floor, twisting in directions that didn't match her movements. "If you follow the signal, you'll never come back," Evelyn's voice pleaded. Then, abruptly, Maggie's hand slammed down on the counter, splintering the wood in half. The lights outside flared blood red. Lena screamed, Harper fired. The shot tore through Maggie's chest, but she didn't fall. She only leaned forward, lips peeling back into a grotesque smile. From her mouth, Evelyn's voice turned low, guttural, almost inhuman. "Room for 5 more." The diner exploded in chaos. Plates rattled off shelves. The jukebox screeched with distorted voices, and Maggie lurched forward, her movements jerky, bones snapping with each step. "Run!" Harper shouted, grabbing Lena by the arm. They vaulted over a shattered booth and burst through the back door into the alley. But the alley was worse. Figures were waiting for them, neighbors, friends, people Lena recognized. Mr. Fletcher, the mailman, a young girl from the high school cheer squad. All of them stood in silence, faces slack, eyes glowing faintly with static haze. They moved in unison, blocking every exit. Harper raised his gun again, but before he could fire, the entire town seemed to hum. A low, bone-deep vibration rolled through the air, rattling his teeth. Above them, the radio tower pulsed with red light, brighter and faster, like it was alive. Lena clutched her head and fell to her knees. "Sheriff, it's inside me, I can hear her." Harper knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. "Fight it, Lena. Don't let it in." Through clenched teeth, Lena whispered, "She's not trying to hurt us. She's trying to warn us." The crowd of townsfolk began to chant in unison, their voices hollow, robotic. "Room for 1 more, room for 1 more, room for 1 more." The chant grew louder, overlapping with static, until it drowned out everything else. Harper yanked Lena up and charged through the crowd. The people didn't resist. They simply turned their heads as one, following with empty eyes. As Harper and Lena stumbled out of the alley, Lena looked back. Every single face was still staring at them. And then, from dozens of mouths at once, Evelyn's voice spoke. "Room for 6 more." Harper and Lena stumbled into the town square. The clock tower loomed above, its hands frozen at midnight, but the square was not empty. Hundreds of townspeople stood in perfect rows, silent, all facing the radio tower. Their bodies swayed slightly, like stalks of wheat in a poisoned wind. Lena clutched Harper's arm. We can't fight this." The sheriff raised his gun, though his hands shook. "Then what the hell do we do?" The ground trembled. The tower's red light flared, painting the square in blood. And then Evelyn appeared. Not in flesh, but projected across every surface. Store windows, TV screens, even the glass face of the clock tower. Her image flickered like a corrupted broadcast, her eyes wide with terror. She spoke directly to Lena. "You shouldn't have answered. You let it through." Lena's breath hitched. No, I didn't." The crowd of townspeople began to chant again, louder this time, shaking the night. "Room for one more, room for one more," Harper shouted over the noise. "One more what?" Evelyn's face twisted, glitching, breaking apart into static. Her voice dropped, layered with something vast, something inhuman. "Room for everyone." The townspeople's jaws unhinged as one, mouths opening impossibly wide. From within, static poured out in a deafening wave. Harper and Lena clamped their hands over their ears, but it was useless. The sound was inside them, behind their eyes. The last thing Lena saw before collapsing was the tower S beacon pulsing faster and faster, like a heart about to burst. Then darkness. A click. Somewhere, a radio turned on by itself. This has been WZRD Ashford Radio, signing off. Story 3. The Hollow Ones. The forest was quiet, too quiet. 4 college students pushed through the thick Appalachian underbrush, their lanterns swaying. Ethan, the leader of the group, checked his GPS and frowned. "Signal's dead. Figures. Middle of nowhere." Samantha rolled her eyes. "That's kind of the point, genius. We're supposed to be off-grid. Pure wilderness." Behind them, Jacob carried the equipment, while Lily trailed nervously, glancing over her shoulder. She whispered, "Does it feel wrong to you? Like the trees are watching?" Ethan laughed. "It's just a forest, Lily. You've seen too many horror movies." But then, through the mist, they saw it. A cabin, weathered, sagging, its windows boarded up. No path led to it, almost as if the forest had grown around it, trying to bury it. Jacob adjusted his pack. "We're at least 5 miles from any marked trail. This shouldn't be here." Ethan grinned. "Perfect. Exactly what we came for." He pushed open the cabin door. The hinges groaned like a dying animal. Inside, the air was stale, thick with rot. Cobwebs draped the corners. A fireplace sat cold, its stones blackened with ancient soot. And on a small wooden table beneath layers of dust lay a leather-bound journal. The cover was cracked, almost crumbling at the touch. Lily shivered. Don't open it." But Ethan already had. The first page was dated October 12, 1891. The handwriting was shaky, frantic. "They are in the trees, hollow eyes, hollow mouths. They whisper even when the wind does not." Ethan smirked, showing the page to the others. "See, local ghost story, this is gold." But then he flipped to the last entry. The date was today, October 31st, 2025. The ink was still wet. Ethan flipped through the pages, his lantern light flickering across yellowed paper. Most of the entries were written in hurried scrawl, words bleeding into each other as if the writer's hand shook with terror. Jacob leaned closer, reading aloud. "The hollow ones move when the moon is gone. They take the shape of those we trust, but their eyes are always empty." Lily hugged herself tightly, her breath quickening. "This is sick, we shouldn't be here." Samantha scoffed, trying to mask her unease. "It's just some old lunatic. People back then were obsessed with demons and witches." Ethan grinned. "Exactly. That's why this is priceless. Imagine the article we can publish. Lost Cabin of the Appalachian Cult." But when he turned another page, his smile faded. The next entry was written in a different hand, neater, sharper, almost modern. October 28th, 2025. "The forest doesn't want us here. We hear them at night, circling the cabin. I don't think we'll last until morning." Jacob froze. "Wait, that's this week." Ethan frowned, flipping to the next page. The ink glistened fresh in the lantern light. October 31st, 2025. "They've found us. If you're reading this, it's already too late." The words bled as if still sinking into the paper. Suddenly, thud. Something slammed against the cabin wall. Lily shrieked, clutching Jacob's arm. Everyone froze. Silence. Then, scratching. Long, deliberate claws dragging across the wood, slowly moving toward the window. Ethan whispered, his bravado gone. No one else knew we were coming out here. The lantern flickered once, twice, and then went out. The cabin was swallowed in darkness. The cabin was a coffin of black. Lily's breathing turned ragged in the dark. Ethan, I can't see anything. Jacob fumbled with his backpack, hands shaking. Matches. I know I packed matches. Outside, the scratching stopped. The silence was worse. Then came the whisper. It wasn't outside anymore. It was inside the cabin. A dozen voices at once, low and hollow. Leave us your eyes. Samantha's hand brushed against something cold on the table. She grabbed it, one of their camping flashlights, and flicked it on. The weak beam cut through the dark and landed on the window. A face stared back, pale, featureless, only two deep holes where the eyes should be. Its mouth stretched too wide, splitting skin, splitting silence. Samantha screamed. The flashlight slipped from her hands, clattering to the floor. The face didn't move. It only pressed closer to the glass, as if studying them. Jacob finally struck a match. The flame flared weakly, lighting his trembling hand. But in that fragile glow, they saw footprints, wet, muddy prints, not outside, inside the cabin, leading from the door to the journal. Ethan's voice cracked. Guys, the ink, it's still wet. The flame died, and in the dark, something whispered right next to Ethan's ear. Your turn to write. Enough! Ethan's voice cracked as he shoved the journal shut. We're leaving, now! He grabbed the lantern, shaking it until the flame sputtered back to life, casting dim light over the cabin. Lily clung to Jacob's arm. Please, Ethan, don't you get it? It wants us here if we go outside. Staying here isn't an option, Samantha snapped. You saw that thing at the window. Ethan yanked the cabin door open. The forest greeted them with silence. No wind, no insects, just a suffocating stillness. They stepped outside, lantern light stretching into the mist. Jacob glanced back and froze. The journal was lying on the porch, but no one had brought it out. Its cover creaked open by itself. The pages fluttered wildly, though there was no breeze. Then the movement stopped, landing on a fresh page. 4 names appeared in black ink, one by one. Ethan, Samantha, Jacob, Lily. And beneath them, words began to write themselves. They tried to leave. The hollow ones were waiting. Lily's scream tore through the night. It's writing what we're doing right now, the forest answered. From between the trees, figures emerged, dozens, pale, hollow-eyed, their mouths opening in perfect silence. The lantern flickered. Ethan tightened his grip on it, whispering, almost to himself, We're not in control anymore. The first hollow one stepped forward. Its face was blank, but its body was Ethan's. Run, Ethan shouted, and the 4 bolted into the trees. The forest swallowed them. Branches clawed at their faces, roots snagged their feet. The lantern's glow bobbed wildly before it finally slipped from Ethan's grip and shattered against a rock. Darkness consumed them. Behind them, the hollow ones followed without sound, an army of pale silhouettes gliding between the trees. Jacob gasped, his breath ragged. They're too fast. Then he saw it. A figure stepped out of the mist ahead, his own face. Same jacket, same trembling hands, but the eyes, 2 cavernous voids. It opened its mouth, stretching unnaturally wide, and when it spoke, Jacob's own voice echoed back at him. You can't outrun yourself. Jacob froze, paralyzed. The hollow Jacob stepped closer, head twitching at unnatural angles. Samantha yanked him by the arm. Move, damn it! But her words died in her throat, because she saw herself too. Hollow Samantha hung from a tree branch like a broken marionette, head lolling to the side, blood dripping down her neck. When it lifted its face, The empty sockets wept black fluid. Samantha staggered back, choking on a scream. Everywhere the forest came alive with them. Hollow Ethan, hollow Lily, hollow Jacob, versions of themselves mutilated, twisted, grinning through the void. Lily collapsed to her knees, sobbing, "It's us, they're all us, they've been us the whole time." Then through the chaos a voice whispered, calm and deliberate. It came from the trees, from the soil, from their own throats. "Return to the cabin, finish the story." The hollow ones stopped moving. All of them stood perfectly still, their heads tilting in unison toward the group. Ethan's fists clenched. We don't have a choice." And for the first time, none of them argued. The cabin door groaned open as the four stumbled back inside. The journal was waiting on the table. Its pages fluttered as if caught in a phantom wind, then stopped. Fresh ink bled across the paper. They returned. The hollow ones watched. The story continued. Samantha backed away, shaking her head. No, it's controlling us." Ethan slammed his fist on the table. "Then we stop it." But even as he spoke, more words appeared. Ethan said they would stop it, but he would fail. The lantern's flame flickered violently. Lily whimpered, pressing her hands to her ears. "I can hear it, it's writing in my head." Jacob grabbed the journal, intending to rip it apart, but before he could, his name scrawled across the page. Jacob. He froze, and beneath it, Jacob picked up the knife. On the floor by his feet, a hunting knife gleamed in the dim light. Jacob's hand twitched toward it, like a puppet on invisible strings. "No!" he shouted, clutching his arm with his other hand. "I won't!" But his fingers closed around the handle anyway. The group screamed as Jacob raised the blade, his eyes filling with tears. "It's not me, I swear!" The journal wrote one final line across the page in thick, dripping strokes. "The first cut is always the hardest." Jacob's body lurched forward, and the lantern went out. The lantern's flame died, but the sound of the knife dragging across the floor filled the cabin. "Jacob," Lily's voice trembled, "please fight it, don't let it in." The matchlight sparked as Samantha flicked one to life. In its tiny glow, they saw Jacob's face, but his eyes were hollow. Black voids stretched where they used to be, leaking trails of darkness that slid down his cheeks. "Jacob's gone," Ethan whispered. His voice cracked with horror. "That's not him anymore." The journal wrote furiously, pages flipping as though an invisible hand carved the words. The hollow one inside Jacob was hungry. It wanted blood. Jacob lunged. The blade slashed across the table, missing Ethan's throat by inches. Wood splintered. Sparks flew as the knife struck metal. Samantha grabbed a chair and smashed it into Jacob, sending him sprawling. "Move!" she screamed. But Jacob rose unnaturally fast, head jerking at sharp angles, like his neck could snap at any moment. He smiled wide, though the smile was carved too deep, splitting his lips until they bled. Ethan and Samantha shoved a cabinet in front of him, buying a second. Lily sobbed in the corner, clutching her knees. Then they noticed something. The journal had stopped writing. The ink on the last line dripped and pooled on the page, forming a single word. "Choose." Samantha's voice cracked. "Choose what?" The pages turned themselves to a blank sheet. A new sentence began to appear, jagged and cruel. "One survives. The rest are written over." Jacob's knife slammed through the cabinet door. His voice was gone. Only the hollow one spoke through him now. Who will it be? The journal's ink spread like veins across the page. New words appeared in jagged lines. The hollow one wanted a game. They would hide. It would seek. The cabinet door burst open. Jacob's hollow face pressed through the splintered wood, smiling too wide. "Ready or not?" he hissed, voice layered with a dozen whispers. Ethan grabbed Lily's arm, pulling her toward the stairs. Samantha darted for the back room. The cabin became a labyrinth of shadows. Floorboards groaned. Doors slammed shut by unseen hands, forcing them apart. Lily's breaths came quick and shallow as Ethan shoved her into a closet. "Stay quiet, don't move, I'll distract him." She shook her head violently. "No, Ethan, don't." But the sound of the knife scraping along the wall silenced her. The blade traced slow, deliberate circles, closer, closer. "Shh, shh, shh." Samantha pressed herself under a bed in the back room, biting her lip until it bled to keep from making a sound. Jacob's voice drifted through the cabin, sing-song, unnatural. Found one. Found two. Where, oh where, are the rest of you? The journal flipped another page on its own. One would be found, one would be taken. The scraping stopped outside Lily's closet door. Her trembling hand covered her mouth as the knob turned, slowly, deliberately. Then Ethan's shout rang out from the hall. "Over here, you bastard!" The sound of footsteps thundered as Jacob lunged after him, knife slashing through the dark. The journal's ink bled again, darker, thicker. But sacrifice only delays the ending. From beneath the bed, Samantha saw something drip through the floorboards above her. Not blood, ink, and it was spelling her name. The cabin shook as Jacob's hollow laughter echoed through the halls. Samantha crawled out from under the bed, her heart hammering. She kept her eyes locked on the ink dripping through the floorboards. It pooled into letters across the dusty wood. Down. Her trembling hand reached forward, pressing against the warped plank. To her shock, it shifted, revealing a hidden latch, a trapdoor. She glanced over her shoulder. Ethan's shouts thundered from the other side of the cabin as he tried to distract Jacob. Lily sobbed somewhere in the dark. Samantha lifted the hatch. A foul stench wafted up, mold, rot, and something far older. Stairs descended into blackness. The journal, abandoned on the table above, flipped its pages violently. Fresh ink scrawled across a sheet and dripped down through the cracks. She found the heart of the story, Samantha whispered to herself, voice trembling. It's not just a book. It's feeding on us. She crept down the stairs, each step groaning under her weight. The deeper she went, the colder it became. Her breath misted in the air. At the bottom, a chamber opened. The walls weren't made of stone or wood. They were made of pages. Hundreds of them stitched together, covered in names and stories written in blood-black ink. At the center stood a pedestal. Upon it, a book identical to the one upstairs, but older, bound in cracked leather that seemed to breathe. Its cover twitched as though something inside wanted out. Then, in the silence, Samantha heard whispers. Not in the room, not in her ears, inside her head. Write with us, or be erased. Above, the trapdoor slammed shut. She was alone with it. The chamber pulsed as though alive. The ancient book on the pedestal opened itself with a wet, tearing sound. Pages flipped. Samantha's name appeared again and again, smeared in thick ink. Samantha hid. Samantha screamed. Samantha begged. "No," she whispered, clutching the edges of the pedestal. "That's not me. That's not how it ends." The whispers grew louder, circling her skull. "Write, child. Take the pen. Become the story. Or vanish between the lines." A quill formed in her hand, slick, dripping ink that smelled of rot. Her fingers curled against her will. Above, she heard Ethan's final scream. Then silence. The pages turned. Lily's name was next. Samantha sobbed. "Stop it, please!" The book responded by writing one more line. "Only the author survives." Her trembling gaze shifted to the pedestal's base. Wedged beneath it, half buried in the ink-soaked floorboards, lay a rusted lantern and a single match. Her breath caught. She realized. Fire. She gripped the quill tighter. Her mind split in two. One path. Write her way out. Live but as a puppet of the book. The other. Burn it. End it. Even if it erased her. Her hand hovered. Tears streaked her face. Then, with a scream, Samantha dropped the quill, struck the match, and hurled the lantern onto the book. Flames roared to life. The pages shrieked as if alive, thrashing, clawing at the air. The stitched paper walls writhed, curling into ash. Samantha was engulfed in fire and ink. The last thing she saw was her own name dissolving into smoke, letter by letter. Darkness swallowed her. Weeks later, hikers stumbled upon the cabin ruins. Amid the charred rubble, untouched by flame, lay a single journal. Its cover was cracked, its pages blank, until one of them flipped it open. Fresh ink began to bleed across the page. They returned. The hollow ones watched. The story continued. Story 4. Whispers in the Fog. The town of Coldwater was the kind of place people passed through but never stayed. Old mill buildings rotted along the river, and the streets emptied after sunset. But everyone in Coldwater knew the rule. When the fog rolls in, you don't go outside. On a Friday night, a group of 4 friends ignored the warning. Maya, restless and skeptical, led the way. "It's just a stupid town legend. Fog doesn't kill people." Her brother Chris wasn't so sure. He kept glancing at the shadows pooling between the streetlights. "Then why does no one talk about the cemetery? Not once." Tara, always chasing a thrill, grinned and held up her phone. "Because they don't want us finding the truth. Come on, viral gold. #FogChallenge. Only Alex lagged behind, hugging his jacket tight. His voice was barely a whisper. "My grandpa, he used to say the fog carried voices, people who never came back." The others laughed it off. They made their way to Coldwater Cemetery, the gates rusted and half buried in mist. The iron creaked as Maya pushed it open. The fog was thicker here, rolling low across crooked tombstones. Every breath felt damp and heavy. Tara lifted her phone, filming. "See? Nothing, just creepy vibes." Then, faintly, Maya heard it. A whisper, her name. "Maya!" She froze. "Did you guys hear that?" Chris shook his head. "Hear what?" "Maya!" The voice was closer now, threading through the fog. Her phone buzzed with a new notification. She glanced down. It was a video sent to her. She played it. The screen showed them standing in the cemetery, exactly where they were now. Except in the video, there were 5 figures in the fog, and the 5th one was standing right behind her. Maya spun around, but there was nothing behind her, just a wall of fog. Her breath came fast. "Someone's here, I swear it." Tara laughed nervously, still recording. "You're just scaring yourself." But when she turned her phone back toward Maya, the live feed showed it again. A shadow standing inches away from her friend. The shadow didn't move, didn't breathe, just watched. Chris yanked Tara's arm down. "Stop filming." But Alex was staring at something else. His voice cracked. "Look." The group turned. Against the far fence of the cemetery, half hidden by fog, was a line of fresh graves. The dirt was still loose, the wood of the coffins barely covered. 4 headstones stood in a row. The names carved into them made their stomachs drop. Maya Dawson, Chris Dawson, Tara Miller, Alex Grant. Maya's knees buckled. "No, that's not possible." Chris ran forward, scraping at the dirt with his hands, as if to prove it was a trick. His fingernails caught on something beneath the soil. Wood. He froze. The coffin lid. From inside, faint scratching began. Scratch. 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 Tara screamed, dropping her phone. The screen cracked, but the camera stayed on, aimed at the graves. The live feed showed something none of them could see with their eyes, pale hands pressing against the coffin lids from within. And then, in perfect unison, the whispers rose out of the fog, calling each of their names. Chris staggered back from the grave, dirt caked under his nails. "We have to get out of here now." No one argued. They ran, the fog thickening with every step, swallowing the gates behind them. The tombstones seemed endless, rising out of the mist like broken teeth. Tara clutched her phone, holding it up for light. The fence has to be this way. But when her flashlight beam cut through the fog, it didn't show iron bars. It showed more graves, row after row stretching into the white void. Maya grabbed Alex's arm. "This isn't right. The cemetery's not this big." Alex's lips trembled. "It changes when the fog comes." The whispers followed them, echoing from every direction. Sometimes it was their names, sometimes laughter. Chris tripped over a crooked stone and crashed to the ground. Tara bent to help him up, then froze. The headstone he'd fallen against bore a fresh carving. "Died tonight." Tara's light flickered. On the screen, the live feed glitched, showing not 4 friends running, but 4 pale corpses stumbling through the mist. Her voice cracked. "It's us. It's already us." Suddenly, the fog shifted ahead. A figure appeared, tall, shrouded in mist, holding a rusted lantern that glowed with sickly yellow light. The whispers hushed. The figure raised the lantern high and a low voice carried through the still air. Cold water always buries its own. The figure with the lantern didn't speak again. He simply turned and began walking deeper into the fog. The yellow light swayed with each step. Maya whispered, "Don't follow him." But the fog around them pressed tighter, coiling like smoke. Every path they tried to take closed in, until the only opening left was the one the lantern lit. Tara clutched Chris's arm. "He wants us to follow. If we don't—" Alex finished the thought with a whisper. "We'll never get out." So they followed. The cemetery grew quieter with every step. No more whispers, no more laughter. Just the sound of their shoes crunching on damp earth and the lantern swinging ahead of them. Finally, the figure stopped. Before them yawned a single, open grave. The earth was freshly dug, the coffin already lowered inside. The headstone stood blank. The figure lifted the lantern higher, illuminating the pit. The coffin's lid was ajar, as if waiting. Chris swallowed hard. No way. That's not for us." Then the lantern light flickered, and for a split second they all saw it, their own faces reflected inside the coffin lid, pale and lifeless, eyes staring back. The lantern flame steadied. The grave was empty again. The figure finally turned to them. His face was lost in shadow, but his voice was a rasp, like wind through dry leaves. "One of you goes in, or all of you stay." The air grew heavy, pressing against their chests as if the fog itself wanted to crush them. "No one's going in there," Maya said firmly, her voice shaking. "We stick together." Chris snapped. "And if he's telling the truth, you want all of us dead?" Tara was trembling so hard she dropped her phone, the cracked screen flickering on the ground. The live feed showed the open grave. Except in the video, the coffin was no longer empty. It was filled with 4 bodies. Their bodies. Alex stumbled back. "We're already in there." Before Maya could answer, a hand shot up from the grave. Grey, bloated fingers latched around Tara's ankle and yanked. She screamed, clawing at the dirt as she was dragged toward the pit. Chris lunged, grabbing her arm. "Hold on!" Another hand burst through the soil, gripping her wrist, pulling her harder. Tara's nails raked bloody lines across Chris's skin as she was torn away from him. Her body slammed into the coffin, the lid creaking open wider. From inside, more hands reached up, skeletal, rotted, dozens of them, wrapping around her waist, her neck, her hair. "Maya, help me!" Maya dove forward, but the fog thickened, forming a wall between her and Tara. She saw her friend's face one last time, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. Before the coffin slammed shut, the ground sealed itself. The grave looked untouched. Tara was gone. The figure with the lantern tilted his head as if satisfied. Then he whispered, "3 remain." Silence fell heavy after Tara vanished, broken only by Chris's ragged breathing. He dropped to his knees, fists pounding the dirt where her grave had been. "She's gone. She's gone because of me." His voice cracked, raw with guilt. Maya pulled at him. "Chris, get up, we can't stay here." But Chris shoved her hand away. "Don't you get it? We're next. He's not going to stop until we're all in the ground." Alex stood frozen, staring at the figure with the lantern. His lips moved in a whisper, too soft to hear. The lantern's glow pulsed faintly, as though it responded to him. Maya noticed. "Alex? What are you saying?" Alex's eyes flicked toward her, distant, haunted. He doesn't just want us dead. He wants us buried. There's a difference." The figure tilted its head, as if amused by the observation. The flame inside the lantern flared, casting long, twisted shadows across the gravestones. Chris scrambled to his feet, anger overtaking fear. "No more! We're not playing your sick game!" He picked up a broken piece of headstone and hurled it at the figure. The stone struck true, passing through the shadowy form as if it were smoke. The lantern, however, jerked violently, its flame sputtering. For the first time, the figure let out a sound, low and inhuman, like a chorus of voices groaning from deep underground. Maya's heart pounded. She grabbed Chris's arm. "Did you see that? The lantern. It's real. That's the key." The figure steadied, the flame returning to its steady glow. Slowly it lifted the lantern higher, and 3 fresh graves opened at their feet. Chris, Maya, and Alex stared at them in horror. The figure rasped, "Choose or the ground will." The graves at their feet gaped open, damp soil breathing a cold stench. Chris clenched his fists. "We don't choose anyone. We fight." Maya's eyes darted to the lantern. "We have to destroy it. That's the only way." But Alex wasn't listening. He stood rigid, staring down into the pit. His lips trembled. "Maya, do you hear them?" Maya grabbed his shoulder. "Hear who?" Alex's pupils dilated, unfocused. "Them. Tara. My mom. My little brother. They're calling me." Chris shook his head violently. "There's nothing down there but death. Snap out of it." But Alex stepped closer to the grave. His body swayed as if pulled by invisible strings. From the darkness below, faint whispers slithered up, his name over and over. Alex, it's safe here. No more fear, no more pain." His foot slid into the loose dirt. Maya lunged, yanking him back just as his other leg dipped. "Don't listen," she screamed. "That's not them, it's him." The figure with the lantern stood utterly still, but the flame flickered wildly, almost in rhythm with Alex's pulse. Alex's face twisted between longing and terror. I saw them. In the coffin. They were waiting for me. Chris grabbed a broken shovel from the ground and brandished it like a weapon. His voice was raw. "Then we end this. Forget choosing. Forget listening. We kill that lantern before it kills us." For the first time, the figure stepped closer, the light from the lantern spilling across their faces. The graves at their feet shuddered, widening, soil collapsing inward as if hungry. The whispering grew louder, no longer just Alex's name, but all of theirs. The graves yawned wider, the whispers now a deafening chorus. Maya clung to Alex's arm, shaking him. "Fight it, Alex, it's not real." But his eyes had gone glassy, pupils drowned in black. His lips curled into a smile that wasn't his. "I see it now," Alex whispered, voice overlapping with others. "The ground isn't prison, it's peace, it's where we belong." Chris raised the shovel defensively. "He's not himself. Maya, get back." Before she could react, Alex wrenched free with unnatural strength, shoving her to the ground. His movements were jerky like a puppet on strings. The lantern flame surged brighter, and as it did, Alex's veins bulged dark under his skin, crawling like black roots. He turned to Chris, grinning wide. "You'll thank me when you're under." Then he lunged. The shovel clanged against Alex's arm, but instead of recoiling, Alex grabbed the metal blade with his bare hand. Blood poured down his wrist, but he didn't flinch. He pulled the weapon away and swung it back at Chris. The edge missed Chris's head by inches, smashing into a headstone, sending sparks. Maya scrambled up, screaming, "Alex, stop, please!" For the briefest flicker, Alex's real voice broke through. His eyes softened, wet with tears. "Maya, help me." Then the lantern flared, and his expression twisted back into a hollow grin. The graves at their feet rumbled, dirt collapsing as skeletal hands began clawing upward, reaching for them. The figure with the lantern finally spoke again, its voice a thunderous whisper. "One by choice, one by force, one by fire." The skeletal hands clawed higher, breaking through the soil, ribs and skulls pushing out of the collapsing graves. Alex staggered forward, shovel in hand, his grin stretched unnaturally wide. "Don't fight it, just lie down, let the dirt cover you." Chris stepped in front of Maya, shovel handle gripped tight. His voice was hoarse but steady. "If you want her, you go through me." "Chris," Maya's voice cracked. "It's Alex. We can't." But Alex charged, swinging the shovel with brutal force. The metal scraped Chris's shoulder, tearing fabric and skin. Chris roared and slammed the wooden handle into Alex's stomach. For a second, Alex wheezed, doubling over. His eyes flickered, human again, tears streaming. "I don't want this." Then the lantern flame flared, and his body snapped upright, movements sharp and inhuman. With a scream that wasn't his, Alex lunged again. Maya grabbed a fallen iron cross from a grave marker and swung it desperately, striking Alex across the head. Blood sprayed as he crashed to the ground, writhing. She dropped the weapon, shaking violently. "Oh my God, I hit him." Chris pulled her back, eyes locked on Alex's twitching form. "You didn't kill him. Not yet. But if we don't end that lantern, he's gone for good." All around them, the dead were pulling themselves from the ground, skeletons and half-rotted corpses dragging broken limbs, jaws clattering as they reached. The figure with the lantern raised the light higher. The corpses froze, waiting. Then it whispered, "Bury the living." The dead lurched toward Maya and Chris, dozens of them. Chris gritted his teeth. "Maya, it's now or never. We smash that lantern or we join Tara." Behind them, Alex began to rise again, shovel dripping blood, his face a mask of rage and grief. The dead surged forward, clawing, grasping, their hollow sockets glowing faint with the lantern's fire. Chris swung the shovel wildly, bones cracking under the blows, but more corpses kept rising. Maya spotted the figure, lantern held aloft like a beacon. The flame inside churned violently, as if alive. "That's it!" she screamed. "The lantern! Chris! Go for the lantern!" Chris shoved a corpse back and locked eyes with her. He knew what she meant. One of them had to break through, no matter the cost. "Cover me!" he shouted. Maya snatched up the iron cross again, swinging with all her strength at the skeletal arms reaching for her. Chris roared and charged straight through the throng, bodies grabbing at his clothes, raking claws down his arms. He plowed through, tackling the figure head-on. For the first time, the lantern slipped from its grasp, tumbling to the ground. Chris screamed, raising the shovel high and brought it down with every ounce of strength left in him. The glass shattered. The flame inside shrieked like 1,000 voices being torn apart. A wave of blinding light exploded outward, blasting the corpses into dust, ripping the fog to tatters. Maya shielded her eyes. When the light faded, the graveyard was still, silent, empty. She staggered forward. "Chris?" He was on his knees where the lantern had broken, body trembling. His skin was pale, veins blackened like Alex's had been. Maya dropped beside him, grabbing his face. "No, no, stay with me. You did it. You saved us." Chris managed a weak smile. "Guess I finally won one of your dares, huh?" His body went limp in her arms. Maya screamed into the still night, clutching him, as the first light of dawn crept over the fogless graveyard. Behind her, Alex's broken body lay unmoving, eyes staring blankly at the sky. The graves had closed. The whispers were gone. But on the wind, faint as a sigh, a voice lingered. Not buried. Not gone. Maya froze, staring at the shards of the lantern still faintly glowing in the dirt. Her relief twisted into terror. It wasn't over.